Good evening, Bulls fans. This is John McQuinney from UBBullrun.com, joined as always by Matt Gritzmacher. Uh, we're here for our usual Sunday night Olympic sports rundown podcast where we talk uh, everything that's not football or basketball. Those have their own shows that are done at separate times, so we talk everything else. It was a busy week this past week. We had men's tennis, swimming and diving, wrestling, and track and field all in action. And I'll hand it off to Matt to start talking about men's tennis.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it until it got to be Friday night, and I said, "My goodness, all we had going on Friday was swimming and diving." But uh, this weekend was the first of kind of what'll be the norm from now until about mid-March, really mid-April, um, where we had at 11 a.m. on Saturday wrestling and tennis going on, and then at 1 o'clock women's basketball started. Men's basketball went immediately after that. Track and field started around 12:30. And then wrestling had another duel at 7. This is what the Saturdays are like from here until mid-April, which is exciting. There's a lot to go on. If somebody loses, there's enough people going on that someone else will win, and that kind of salvages the weekend, which is nice. We always start with the teams that start their season, and this weekend that was men's tennis getting their first of the year. They're of course the reigning conference champions. Hooray for them! One of the most memorable all of UB's championships were memorable last year. Uh, Men's tennis in particular was the only one where I think UB was really in danger of losing. Um, and they were really in dire straits last year. They fell down 2-0 right off the bat. By the time they fought it back to 2-2, it still didn't look good. And really, the winning point came from Sergio, who I won't even try to pronounce his last name, uh, coming back from 5-1 down, literally match point after match point to win his set and win the championship for UB. So they're the reigning MAC champions. They've lost Damian David and Sebastian Ionesco, two seniors who graduated from last year, and Jonathan Hannestad, who was a valuable depth performer for them last year. And that depth was really what carried the Bulls. If you'll remember, they only made it into the MAC tournament on the basis of a tiebreaker because they beat Ball State on senior day, and then Ball State lost their final match. Um, and it wasn't until the MAC tournament that their number 1 and 2 singles, Damian David and Pablo Alvarez, started to win again. So they really won last year on the strength of their depth, and now that's going to be tested. They had a reasonably successful fall season, about as successful as last year. It was promising for sure, especially with a smaller roster. And they started this weekend for the duels team season in earnest against two matches this weekend, one Saturday, one Sunday, one against nationally ranked Dartmouth. Men's tennis kind of falls in the same geographic opponents as track and field and cross country do, where you'll see them a lot more cross country than track and field. You'll see them a lot against Northeastern opponents, and you won't really see them against the rest of the conference and kind of the Great Lakes region at all. So we'll see UB play all of the Ivies. We'll see them play other Northeastern schools like Bryant, who they did today, like Boston College, like Monmouth, like NJIT. Starting their season with Dartmouth. Dartmouth is nationally ranked. Their guy at number 1 singles is top 20 in the country. 2 of their 3 doubles pairings are top 10 in the country. You can pretty much expect how this would go. Um, they did get 1 win in straight sets from Sergio. I should try once. Aravilio, I'm not sure. Sergio, we call him Sergio. He got 1 point, so they lost 6-1. They did claim Sergio and Ethan Natolo, freshman Ethan Natolo, did claim a 1 win in doubles, and UB almost won the doubles point. Pedro Alvarez and Amar Hromich went to the tiebreaker and had the tiebreaker tied at 7-7 and really looked like they could pull out the doubles point for the Bulls against actually the better of the 2 Dartmouth doubles pairings. So that could have been big. It didn't happen, but it's really no big deal against a team like Dartmouth, who is ranked. Today they stayed in New Hampshire and competed against Bryant. Um, Bryant has been in NCAA tournament 3 times in the last 3 years as the winners of the Northeastern Conference, Mid Atlantic Conference. They win their little conference and they go to the NCAA tournament. And UB really had no trouble with them today, winning 5-2. Hromich and Alvarez and Akil Meta and Noah Haidu Anderson won in doubles to claim the doubles point. And then UB got wins in singles from 1, 2, 3, and 4. Amar Hromich, Pedro Alvarez, Ethan Natolo, and Sergio. And then 5 and 6, Akil Meta. And new guy, Artur, I still haven't really looked at his name yet. Artur Kolkovsky um, was at 6, and the 5 and 6 lost. Um, Pretty much as expected opening for men's tennis. Lots of seniors. Hromich is a senior. Alvarez is a senior. Sergio Aravillo is a senior. And Akil Meta is a senior? I don't think Tony Miller is a senior. I think it's Akil Meta. This is not a team that has kind of the top end talent of last year, but they do have lots of experience. I think what was most interesting to me coming into this weekend wasn't so much wins and losses. I wasn't expecting a win over Dartmouth. I was over Bryant, but kind of the shakedown of the lineup. Um, it's a surprise to me, John, to see Amar Hromich in front of Pedro Alvarez. He's come on very strong from when he joined the team a year ago at this time last year. Ethan Natolo at third singles is about where I expected him based on the fall. And then the shakedown of everyone else is a little bit interesting. I was expecting Noah Haidu Anderson to have that 4 spot, and it looks like Sergio's got it. Um, I was expecting Akil Meta to be in kind of 4 or 5, and he's there. The big thing is UB's got a real thin lineup now. Like there's
Mhm.
not a lot of room for error. Um, the doubles pairings are not that unexpected. Hromich and Alvarez had good chemistry last year. They'll stick together. Um, Sergio and Ethan Natolo had good chemistry in the fall. They'll stick together. And then Akil Meta was with Tony Miller last year, and Miller played against Dartmouth and did not play against Bryant. And Noah Haidu Anderson stepped into that spot. And so I don't think there's too many surprises. But like last year, Damian David and Pablo Alvarez both struggled with some injuries at times. If that happens this year, there's really no room for error as much as the senior experience is there.
Mhm. I think you kind of you mentioned him briefly, but we finally found out who the new guy was. And it was probably a couple of weeks back that Coach Nickel kind of uh, he cryptically tweeted that he was going to pick up someone new, but he never really indicated who he was going to get.
Yeah,
And the new
nobody added
guy,
him to the roster. Just saying. I've been checking the roster almost daily, trying to see who it was.
oh.
Just saying, UB. He's on the roster now. Hooray. It does anyway. Go ahead, John.
Okay.
Sorry.
Um, so Artur, I'm not gonna try to pronounce his last name because I'm probably gonna
See, I can
butcher
pronounce this name. Kulikovsky.
it.
Kulikovsky.
Okay.
I can't get those L's in Sergio's last name, but I can do Kulikovsky.
I did a quick Google search and Google revealed that he is from Bucharest, Romania. Um, so he's another guy that has international playing experience. I think what exactly he'll bring, we'll probably find out as the season goes along, and we kind of see him in and out of the lineup, see where he fits. Um,
Yeah.
I think at this point, probably the top 5 singles are probably set, so he'd probably rotate in and out in the 6th spot if I
That's
had
what
to
I'm thinking
guess.
too. Yeah, I think when Hromich came in last year, we immediately thought of him as like 3, 4, 5. We looked at his background with Central Florida, and he looked like someone who could really contribute right away. I'm not so sure about this guy.
Yeah, there's
He's
not.
coming as a freshman. Hromich came in as a junior, so that's there. But
Mm,
um,
yeah, there's not too much out there on him either, other than like a
yeah,
small ITF for international profile. Um,
yeah.
One thing I think one of the commenters brought it up, which I found interesting, was that UB was picked second in the MAC behind Western
Oh
Michigan,
yeah, I didn't even
and
think to bring this up.
UB, like you mentioned, they're the more senior laden team, and Western Michigan is largely underclassmen, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. So Western Michigan is a powerhouse in MAC tennis, in the very small MAC tennis. Not quite on the level of Akron in men's soccer, but UB's championship last year was the first time since 1997 that someone other than Western Michigan or Ball State had won the conference championship. Um, They're very good. They deserve to be number one. I was somewhat surprised to see UB. I think they deserve to be over Northern Illinois when I stop and think about it, who was the number one seed last year, has been the number one seed in the past, and continually lost to UB. It's kind of funny. I was surprised to see them over Binghamton. And really, if you look at the voting totals, it was very close between Western Michigan, UB, and Binghamton in those top three spots. There's a clear top tier of three there, which is exciting because I feel on a gut reaction like men's tennis lost a lot from last season, but it looks like they're going to be okay when I stop and look around the conference. The one thing is, looking at the schedule, it's pretty lopsided against the Bulls. They've expanded from just a simple round robin, and now each team plays two other teams twice. And for UB, that is Western Michigan and Binghamton. Um,
Hmm.
the consolation there is they get all four of those matches at home in Buffalo. How much is home field advantage in tennis? Who really knows? Probably not a ton.
Well, just have to get the true blue guys out there yelling at them.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, men's tennis, not just last year, but for years and years, men's tennis has proven that as long as they get into the MAC tournament, they can make it to the final. You know, last year they could not have cut it any closer than they did last year, and they made it to the tournament and then they cruised. Um, but yeah, they've been picked second by the MAC coaches and other staffers. Um, we'll see what happens. This is an exciting group. The schedule isn't as ambitious as last year.
Yeah.
Last year they really went after the Ivies in February and spaced them out. This year they've got a couple of them in January, but then February is going to be a little easier. That's when they're playing Boston College and NJIT and Monmouth, and it looks like they're not looking to go as hard. Last year they looked real strong through January, and then just got creamed four times in a row in February,
Hmm.
and then kind of hit the MAC regular season play in not so good shape.
And at least this season, Dartmouth didn't call us the Buffalo University Buffaloes. So there's that.
Oh my God.
I think,
You kind of like went choppy there, and I'm glad that you did, just so I didn't have to listen to that again. I
uh,
This has been a year, like not so much like this whole fall, there were time and time again where people like got things wrong with our coaches, like blatantly like the disrespect of not learning people's names. Like Penn State, the in-stadium announcer at Penn State said that UB football was coached by Jeff Quinn, like with Lance Leipold standing on the sidelines. And there was an issue with
oh,
one of the women's soccer broadcasts that got like somebody like just wildly wrong. There were
and
issues with a number of soccer broadcasts just calling us the Buffalo guy, the Buffalo, Buffalo, but not bothering to learn anyone's names. It's
there
been a
was
rough year, but that all kind of started with Dartmouth calling us the Buffalo University Buffaloes.
there is the Columbia broadcast for wrestling.
Mm.
They kept saying that UB was in the EIWA for wrestling,
Yeah, that's
and
because Columbia's own game notes, their own SID said that we were in the EWIA.
yeah, and we're not. We're in the MAC.
We're not. Yeah. Newsflash. We're in the Mid American Conference. To all our loyal viewers,
To
in case you
our
in
one.
case you didn't know, we're in the Mid American Conference. Columbia, all those Ivy League schools have like 28, 32, 35 varsity sports. I kind of assume because they're Ivy League, maybe they don't have the same level of SID coordination, but like it's not even like we're in the MAC and they thought we were in like say the Missouri Valley Conference, and just like didn't know. But like the IWA is Columbia's conference, is it not?
Yeah, that's Columbia's
Yeah.
conference. It's
So
basically all the Ivy Leagues, more or
yeah.
less.
So like that's a doubly wrong and annoyingly wrong thing for me.
Yeah.
Do we want to do wrestling now? Now that we're on wrestling?
Well, yeah. As soon as I brought it up,
Yeah.
I guess we could talk
Yeah.
about that. So wrestling, the main roster had uh, kind of a long day the other day, or not the other day, yesterday. Um, went down to New York City, had a dual meet with Columbia, started at 11 o'clock, finished there, then drove the hour from New York City to Fairfield, Connecticut, then had another dual meet with Sacred Heart at 7 o'clock in the evening. And if the coaches' Twitter accounts are to be believed, they left Buffalo that morning.
Mm.
So drove from Buffalo to New York City to Connecticut, then Connecticut back to Buffalo, and still wrestled two dual meets there. Um, Against Columbia last season, it was really it was Cole Cotton's coming out party. Um, the final score was kind of lopsided because outside of his pin, and I think it was Sean Peacock won as well. Um, they didn't really have much help in the back end of the lineup, and
Yep.
kind of the same thing happened this year. Started out Kyle Aikens, Brandon Lappy, and Cole Cotton all got major decision wins. So heading into 157 pounds, the Bulls were up 12-3.
Well, yes. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead.
They're up 12-3. Then from they dropped 157 to 184. Then Columbia had taken the lead at that point, 15-12. James Benjamin stopped the bleeding, tied it back up, and it came down to Jake Gunning against Garrett Ryan, who is nationally ranked, and I
But
believe
barely, like 31, right? Like right on the edge.
yeah, but I believe he was a national qualifier last year, if I'm
Okay.
not
Well,
mistaken.
that's more meaningful to me than being ranked, um,
Um,
rightly or wrongly.
he really got taken down like a couple of times early
Hmm.
by like the same move.
That's
He
what you said about Joe Areola too. And given that UB was only one win away from this, Tyler Rill, um, sorry, if Tyler Rill wrestles, we win this duel. Um, Nothing against Tyler. It's just frustrating. But it sounded like Joe Ariel and Jake Gunning both got victimized by the same move within their respective matches,
hmm
um, multiple times, and that's just frustrating to me. And you're the one with the wrestling background, but it's
Yeah.
frustrating to me.
The problem with Ariola's guy in particular is that Ariola, if you look at him, he's more of a shorter, stock. He's a really big guy. Um, the guy that he was wrestling against was kind of tall and lanky. He's probably a good like 4 or 5 inches taller than
Oh
Ariola.
wow.
Um, and with the height difference, there's certain advantages and disadvantages to that, and he took full advantage of the advantages that he had. Um, so it's I don't know, it's just kind of a strategy thing that he was able to get him down and get on top and ride out the match. So 18-15, I kind of predicted beforehand. I said it was going to be a match that would probably come down like the Lockhaven match. It'd be something really close within a match. Um, it's kind of a bummer, but it's a huge improvement off of last season's result. And
Yeah,
um, Cotton, Lappy, and Akins all went 2-0 between Columbia and Sacred Heart. So I'm moving on to Sacred Heart. We Sutsman has had their number ever since he's gotten to UB. He hasn't lost to them yet. He's 3-0.
they're not very
Um,
good. Their
not
only win was
particularly.
Davidson this year, so
And we shut them out.
we that was a fun duel to watch. Was wrestling over Davidson. I'll just put it
um,
that way.
and against Sacred Heart, UB had 5 bonus point wins. Brian Lantry had a pin. Lappy, Cotton, and Muhammad McBride all had major decisions, and Jake Gunning had a technical fall to really put the cherry on top of the win.
Yeah. So we're up
Um,
to we're up to 7 duel wins now.
yes, that's the most since the 2011-2012 season, and we're in good shape to hit 8.
Yeah, we've
Um,
got to get a MAC win from somewhere, right? We just have to.
yeah, my guess, if you want a MAC win, I would say it's Northern Illinois. the back
Okay.
half of the schedule is it's basically home loaded.
Yeah,
It's almost all home matches except
which
for Central
means
Michigan.
ESPN3 and me creating GIFs out of the key moments
Hmm.
and then
Um,
leaving them to you to forget about.
yeah, yeah.
That'll come someday.
Um, yeah, I mean they have Old Dominion this week. Old Dominion's like a borderline top 25 team. They have a bunch of ranked guys, bunch of national qualifiers, and a couple of returning All Americans. Um, Ohio's always a tough go. They'll probably give Ohio a run for their money.
Yeah.
Central Michigan's tough. They're nationally ranked. And then there's Binghamton and Northern Illinois. Those are two winnable matches.
Yeah.
So I think the goal is probably 9 wins.
Okay.
It's probably a 9 win season by so nine, and they're sitting at 7-5 or 6.
Okay.
One, two, three, four, five, six. So they're staying at 7-6. So it'll be like a 9-10 season,
Yeah.
which is a pretty
Huge
drastic.
improvement.
Yeah, it's um, nearly doubling the win total. Really, the dual meet win total doesn't really matter to me as much right now. It's
Yeah.
about it's about getting guys to nationals.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
And if you were to give me either a 9 win dual meet season or keeping everyone healthy and getting as many guys as possible nationals, I'm going to choose the latter.
Yeah, of course.
And last but certainly not least, just to wrap up with wrestling, today, if you for those watching, if you're unaware, wrestling while you're redshirting, if you're in a redshirt season, you can still compete. You can compete in open competitions as an unattached competitor, and it's a good way for the redshirt guys to kind of get used to the college environment, um, get experience, or for guys that have been hurt, uh, kind of rehab, get back in wrestling shape and get ready to get back into the lineup. Today, there was the Purple Raider Open held by Mount Union, which is in Ohio. And let me pull up my notes. Let me pull up my recap actually.
Yeah.
Um, and we had two finalists, Justin Patrick and Derek Holcomb at 125 and 165 pounds. Uh, Patrick had to forfeit the first place match. Don't know if it's called a medical forfeit. I've seen times where coaches will pull the guys, or if there's a soft tissue injury, or if there's something, you know,
Yeah, John was kind of talking me off the ledge today.
yeah, or
Not
something.
that Patrick is going to surpass Akins and burn his red shirt anyway. Not that Nate Rose is going to burn his red shirt at this point anyway, but
You don't want to see
the
guys
word
get
on the street the word on the street here is that medical forfeit is not a scary term the way that it happened today. Um,
hurt. Hopefully, I'm not.
hopefully.
Um,
Yeah, hopefully.
I mean, I've seen some coaches do it as a precautionary thing. Um, we'll see. Hopefully, there are no. It's nothing serious, and they'll be fine for what the next competition, open competition that's coming up. Um, and Patrick actually, because you and I watched the Missouri Eastern Michigan duel, and the
Hmm.
guy that Patrick would have wrestled, his brother wrestles for Missouri,
Yep.
and we had talked about that. He wrestles for the University of Michigan. Um, but really, Patrick, it was a breeze for him right to the finals. Um,
Yeah.
then,
Well, his match was a little bit dicey. He
yeah,
needed a takedown in the last minute to win that one.
yeah, in
Even
which
so,
even with the medical forfeit, his record on the season
Yeah.
is 25-6.
Yeah, he's got a shot at 35 wins, yeah?
I think he's got a good shot at 30.
Oh, I mean, I'm kind of assuming he'll get to 30. We figure they've got at least
Oh.
three more open tournaments, right? At least.
Uh, yeah, I think so. I'll have to look again at the.
Yeah.
There's a list on Track Wrestling. I'll have to take a peek at that again. But yeah, I mean, 30 is realistic, and I mean, Jake Gunning had 28 wins last season
Hmm.
as a during his redshirt year. Um, and Derek Holcomb fell in the finals
Yeah,
after
we had
being
five finalists or five semifinalists.
five semifinalists, which
Okay.
were Patrick Holcomb, Ryan Cromer at 174 pounds,
Yeah.
Nolan Terrence at heavyweight, and there's one more there, and Nate Rose at 197.
Yeah. I think only three of those guys are starting next year. I think only Patrick, Cromer, and Rose are starting. I think Cromer is the guy at 174 once McBride goes away. I think Rose supplants Benji, and I think one of Patrick or Akins gets bigger and grows to 133 and proves a little more dangerous than Brian Lampshey. We're starting to get to the point in development as a program where there's going to be real tough decisions there, I think. We already
Yeah,
were kind of seeing it with Cotton and Estevez this year and Peacock. Um, Maybe I'm going down a direction you don't want to talk about right now. This is what I've been thinking about today: is how do we get Kyle Akins and Justin Patrick in the lineup next year?
there's a lot. There's a very big log jam between 125 and really 149 pounds.
Yeah, I mean,
Where
if you include Tommy Forte up to 157, I mean Forte is probably better than Schaefer, right? He's got it. I mean, I like Schaefer,
I
but
guess so. I mean,
yeah,
just with his high school pedigree and him being like top 10 in the nation and at his weight,
yeah.
he was top. I think he was top 10 at 152 pounds coming out of high
I
school.
wonder. He's 152. Do you think he could add 10 pounds and go up and take Rill's spot at 165? Is that a pretty that is
I
that a
mean,
lot?
after Brill graduates, I mean, Brill still has he's a redshirt junior this year,
Oh, so he is. Never mind.
so he'll have another
For some
year.
reason, I've had in my head that Rill was a senior.
No, the only people, um,
McBride.
McBride and Ryan Therian.
Okay.
Therian has been competing mostly in open tournaments. He was actually at this open today and he didn't place. Um, so Cromer and Brett Perry each finished third. Um, Perry went on a tear.
Yeah.
He lost his first match to I believe the eventual champion. Um, then he got a pin and three major decisions and a medical forfeit win. He had a medical forfeit win in the consolation semis, but then every other match it was a pin and three major decisions. Um, so I think he's definitely lining himself up. If you want to talk about future um, lineup decisions, he's making good push for Joe. Once Joe Areola graduates, he's making good push for his spot.
Well, aren't Perry and Areola the same year? I mean, Perry's redshirting this year. Isn't Areola a sophomore? A redshirt sophomore this year?
Oh, I see.
I think he is, John.
Oh, no, that's a see. It's just more conundrums.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good problem to have.
It is a very good problem. It's a problem that
When people get hurt, we
yeah.
haven't had in a long time. Because
Um,
people do get hurt and to feel comfortable in their next guy. Areola is a redshirt sophomore, and Perry is a sophomore, an outright sophomore. So they'll be in the same year.
yeah, they will be. How about that? Huh. Great.
I would have thought that Perry was older than Areola, so that's why you set off my alarm bells, is because I thought Perry was older than Areola. Um,
Whoops.
it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean
Uh, Go ahead.
they're stacked up and down the board for like when these guys are juniors and seniors. this team's going to be really good, which I've been
Yeah,
tooting that horn for a long time
for
now.
2 full years now. Yeah.
Yeah. And then just to kind of wrap up the last other guys, Nolan Terrence, Nate Rose, and Alex Smythe all placed sixth in their brackets. Smythe he was going to be he was the presumed starter at 157. Busted his jaw in the off season, so it's good to. So like I said, it's kind of to kind of do a hockey analogy. It's kind of a conditioning stint in the AHL for him, but he's going to redshirt. I'm assuming by now he's going to redshirt this season.
Yeah.
Um, but this is more to keep him in, get more match experience, keep him in shape, yada yada yada. Rose withdrew after his semifinal match and gave up medical forfeits. Um, Lost a real close one in the semis, 5-3 to a guy from Michigan. Um, then there's the two medical forfeits. He probably would have made it to the third place match if he was healthy, and he didn't get pulled. Um, so yeah, all in all, a good day.
Yeah.
7 out of 11 guys placed. 5 guys in the semifinals is really good. Um, when you get half your team in the semifinals, basically that's a really good day.
Yeah, that's solid. I think this is the first time we've actually done a write up of one of the open tournaments. But for UB barely publicizing them at all, basically only if the coaches bother to tweet about it. Um, oh, my hand's right in front of my camera. Um, we've been able to follow all of them this year. Like I think we could go through and account for every match that UB's had. And this was a particularly strong day
It was.
for
It
UB.
was one of the stronger ones. There was a few outings earlier that weren't as good. I would say outside of the New York State championships, the open bracket, this was probably their strongest outing so far this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is good. It's good to be excited about them.
I think I'm just about done with that, so we can move on to your choice of swimming and diving, or track and field.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with swimming and diving first because I think it will be shorter. Track and field will be pretty short too. Swimming and diving had a relatively busy weekend for them. Not an invitational, but Friday afternoon they competed in a dual meet, both the men and the women against Niagara. Um, you really don't need to know anything about this except Niagara is terrible. They always are. We always beat the crap out of them. Um, here's like, I mean, UB conceded every single one of their swimmers in the last 5 events and still beat Niagara by over 100 points in both the men and the women. Maybe it wasn't 100 points. It was enough. It was too many. Antonio Lanzi swam the 200 butterfly. He's like he was second or third in the MAC and the 50 free last year, and he swam the 200 butterfly. Like it just, there's no point in talking about it. I was hoping that in the first meet back from the winter break, we'd start to get an idea of depth charts and things like that. And against Niagara, none of that happened um, next week. But the men followed that up on Saturday with really a big highlight in their first duel against conference competition against Miami. And swimming is like track. I'll say this about track in the future, perhaps 15 minutes in the future, in that your actual head-to-head results don't really matter as long as your individuals swim times to qualify them for the MAC championships. All that matters is the races inside the MAC championships. That said, they beat the crap out of Miami, which is great. The final score was 230.5 to 76.5. UB won every single event except one, the 3 meter dive, and they had the second place finisher in all but 5 events. So that makes it easy to win when you're getting 10 points for every win, and you win, whatever it was, 15 of 16 events, and then you're getting 8 points for every, or even 6 points for every second place one, and you're winning 2/3 of those. That's it's easy to win the overall team score that way. Um, this is really encouraging to me because if you remember last year, UB only lost two or three seniors last year. They also lost backstroker Matt Batara, who is just not on the roster anymore. He was a sophomore last year, but they've had very minimal losses from last year. And last year they finished third in the MAC championship, just a wide margin behind second. Um, but them and Southern Illinois was second. Missouri State was fourth, I think. But the difference between third, fourth, and fifth, Miami was in fifth, was just 10 points, which over a 4-day meet is a very, very narrow margin. It was UB at 517 points and Miami at 507, very close. And so for UB to come out and just really dominate Miami in every single race, very, very exciting team showing for the Bulls. Um, from a time standpoint, very few people posted season bests. I think it was fewer than 8 uh, posted season bests, and a lot of them were by very thin margins, 2 or 3 hundredths of a second. But I think the most interesting things to learn is this is a meet where finally we had an excuse. The coaches had a reason to put people in their like best combination instead of seeing Antonio Lanzi in the 200 free and Itai De La Vega in the 200 free just because he can. Um, and like John Ekus in a butterfly. Like there's no point for that. He's a backstroker. Um, so we finally started to get to see people in kind of their best events. And where it was really interesting, I think, is in the relays because putting your best relay combination together is telling you a lot more than just putting three guys in the 100 free and seeing who those were. So it's particularly interested in the medley relay, where I think that unlike last year, UB has a really solid 2 or 3 guys of depth in a lot of events. If you'll remember last year, the women were extremely strong in the freestyle and very weak in the other events, and the men were relatively strong in the other events and not so great in the freestyle. And I think this year they have a much more evenly balanced team. Uh, the top medley relay team was let me get who's the first one? Hudson Carroll at backstroke. Not too much of a surprise over John Ekus. Itai De La Vega over Scott Wong in the breaststroke. Not too much of a surprise. Mason Miller over Andrew Cole Goins. Again, not too much of a surprise. And then Aaron Durrance in the freestyle leg, which Durrance is plenty fast. He's not Antonio Lanzi. Antonio Lanzi wasn't even um, on a relay squad. And while I think that all 4 of those guys make sense and are the best that were available, it's still just interesting to see, okay, De La Vega's ahead of Wong, even in the short events. Mason Miller is a true, a freshman. He's a young freshman, too. He might not even be 18 yet. He's ahead of Andrew Cole Goins. Hudson Carroll over John Ekus is not a terrible surprise, but, we're starting to see kind of the tiers break down. In the freestyle relay, I don't think really any of us would be surprised by this. It was Antonio Lanzi, Martin Lee, Aaron Durrance, and Mason Miller. The only thing that surprises me even a little bit there is that Miller was the anchor leg. He's a freshman. He's fast. He's fast as hell. But it's interesting to see him be the anchor instead of Antonio Lanzi. Um, so it's still a ways until like any of this is super meaningful, as long as people hit their cut times. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that Saturday was kind of the first time we started to get an idea of the pecking order.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So it's kind of the same boat as track and field.
yes, yeah. Consider them. They're so similar in the way that we approach them during the season. Um, really, period. There's yeah, it's the same boat as track and field. The only difference is that in track and field you don't have a relay made up of a 400 meter, a 100-meter sprint, a mile run, a shot put, and a high jump.
Mm-hmm.
The disciplines in swimming are a little closer to each other. Um, but it's the same idea. It's good to beat people. It's good to win races. But what we're interested in is hitting MAC qualifying times and hitting NCAA B cuts. Um, I will point out that in the dives against Miami, in the 1 meter dive, Nick Rodriguez set a school record. Um, let me guess at his number 359.85. That's a number. That's higher than anybody's ever done at UB before. I know vaguely how diving is scored based on the difficulty of your dive gets a score, and that functions as a multiplier over your out of 10 score for your execution. But how that all happens or what's a good score and what's not, I have no idea. I just know that Nick Rodriguez's number is higher than anyone's ever done before for the school. So that's a school record. That's super swell. We like when those happen. Um, The men are off for a week now. The women are on next week against Ohio, also at home at Alumni Arena. That's swimming and diving. Track and field is marginally more exciting. It's kind of the same idea, but maybe it's more exciting because it's newer. It's newer and shinier, John.
Fair enough. And they took on all. They went to the Albany Great Dane Invite at their home
Yeah.
quote. Uh,
Yeah, why do we get crap from New York Bowls Initiative and Albany's freaking running home track and field events in Staten Island? Like in Staten Island, not even like New York City, but Staten Island. Like, did we take the ferry to get there? I want to know this. I need to figure out who I need to ask if UB Track and Field took the ferry to their meet this weekend. Anyway, um, kind of interesting breakdown in where entries were, but overall a much stronger performance than I was expecting. This meet historically is quite strong. For anything that happens in New York City is strong for kind of unattached runners and entries. Um, People who are just like compete, like John Jones might show up in some events this year as like an unaffiliated thrower because he's still training with Jim Garnham, um, and like other runners. And on top of that, Albany, I hate to say it, Albany has a pretty strong sprinting program. They're good at track. Um, it's typically a very strong meet. It attracts Villanova, who's very strong at distance. It attracts UConn, who's a pretty strong program. Um, UB had a lot of folks who impressed. They ended up finishing third in both the women's and the men's team scores, which is hard to do. I feel like I should
um,
let you talk, John. So I don't know what you're going to say.
I should probably what I was going to talk about was the throws.
Talk about the
That's
throws.
what I know. That's what I know best out of track and field. On the men's side, kind of an obvious Ryan Cribben and Devin Patterson 1-2.
Second week
Um,
in a row. Keep it going.
yeah, the order to me was a little surprising. I don't know if it was as surprising to you. I more expected Patterson to be ahead of Cribben, but is
Yeah,
it a big surprise to you that Cribben's ahead of Patterson?
I expected Patterson to be ahead of Cribben coming into this year, but if we look back to the MAC Outdoor Championships last spring, Cribben was sitting second and Patterson was sitting fifth until the very last throw. And Patterson's final throw was his longest of the day by like almost a full meter. Um, what is most surprising, more so than the fact that Cribben is better than Patterson right now, is that Cribben is outthrowing Patterson by like a meter, like almost 2 meters. Like Cribben's throwing like 18-15, Patterson's at like 16-50. Like it's a wide margin. Um, like Cribben's throws right now are maybe not all American level, but like get it. He might get to nationals this year.
Mm.
Might if he improves over the course of the season, he doesn't need much to at least get into nationals, and that is a very pleasant surprise to me.
Oh, well, that's good. I mean, at minimum, one of these two guys is going to win the MAC championship. I mean, that's more
Yeah.
or less a given, right?
Um. Ryan Krauser, if he doesn't break his finger last year, he wins the national championship by like a full meter. So I don't want to say it's a given. If both are healthy, I would expect UB to go at a minimum 1-3 in both indoor and outdoor.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think anyone else in the MAC threw over 18 last year, indoor or outdoor, and UB had two guys throwing over 18, three throwing over 18. So yeah, I UB will win a MAC championship in shot put this year, probably two. Um, they'll be fine. Um, the
And
women's throws were very impressive too. I don't know.
very, um,
Yeah,
Meg Patterson won.
no relation.
Um, what was that?
Oh, Meg Patterson is not related to Devin Patterson.
Ah,
That's all.
yes, no
Yeah,
relation.
yeah.
Um, she won the women's shot put, and we had the other two, Joanna Hollisey and Mackenzie Coolwin took eighth and ninth. Um, and Patterson Stroh is currently the top in the MAC, if I'm not mistaken.
Nope, you are right, which is good. That's great. It's been a while since we've had women's throwers who really can compete at the top of the MAC. For whatever reason, um, Western New York high school track and field, Lancaster dominates the field events, like dominates them. And Lancaster's throwers always seem to go to Kent State. And I don't quite know what's up with that, but it seems like UB's got a couple throwers on the women's side. UB did earn points, both men and the women, in the weight throw at this meet, which is exciting. Um, because if I'm not mistaken, certainly on the men's side, perhaps on the women's side, maybe the women's side is a little older. Um, in 2014, I think both the men and the women graduated their school record holders in the weight throw. Maybe the women's is a little older than that. Um, but before John Jones graduated, um, oh, now I'm going to forget his name. That's embarrassing. Anyway, I've been waiting for throws to mean all the throws and not just shot put. And at least for the
Mm-hmm.
indoor season right now, it looks like we've got some oomph in the weight throw as well, which is encouraging in a big way.
Is
Um,
um is anyone competing in discus?
Discus is not an indoor sport,
Not an indoor. Okay.
indoor event, I should say. No, nope. Javelin and discus only take place outdoors. Um, and I actually don't know. Arnis Maimataj is still on the roster. He's presumably our men's javelin guy. He was not competitive in the MAC last year. And the only one on the women's side who we had throwing javelin last year was Isabella Barini, who
Went to
is
women's
now on the
soccer.
women's soccer team. So she doesn't do that anymore. We'll see what comes out of that. If I remember correctly, the MAC championships usually only has like 5 or 6 people competing in the javelin anyway. Feels like it would be easy to gain some points there, but apparently we're using our scholarships and our energy in other places. Um, Another group that I was really pleasantly surprised with was the women's sprinters, John. I think we knew that the real short distances had some real powerful sprinters. Kamaria Long has won multiple MAC championships um, at different distances. She's primarily a 200 person. Um, but Malaya White and Tyra Forbes are fast, and the two of them are both in the top 5 all time at UB already in the 60-meter dash. And all three of them are very evenly. They all finished within 0.04 seconds, um, which means I would expect those three and perhaps one more, um, to make up in outdoor the 4x1 team. It'll be a really evenly distributed 4x1 team, which is good for training. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I Kamari Long, like I said, her marquee event is kind of the 200 Malaya White. White actually ran faster than Long at this meet, which again, it's early. This meet is kind of like an October swim meet. Like it doesn't matter at all. We're just trying to spread people out and get them times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's nice to see UB score points. Kind of. Kyla Kenyon is a senior who I vaguely recognize her name, but don't really remember her much from last year. But she's done well in the 400 so far. Chrissy Little is kind of the lockdown 60-meter hurdle. She was the top collegian at this event in the 60-meter hurdles, which is really good. Um, and I think they had 4 or 5 people compete in the 60 hurdles, and they all finished in the top 25, which is real solid. Um, the women's team right now reminds me, actually, both the women's and the men remind me a lot of kind of men's swimming and diving last year, where they'd have like one person in an event who was real competitive, and if that person didn't, swim their best and they got 8th place instead of third, there was really no one else around to pick up the slack or like get a couple more points, like with depth and things. And I think that I'm very pleasantly surprised with the distribution of the women right now. They barely entered anyone in distance events, but the folks they did enter, um, Amy Shaw and Corinne Burchard went 2 and 4 in the 3,000. Um, and then they also had two more place finishers in the 5,000. Last year, their mid distance group was pretty strong. I don't understand why they're not entering more people. They've got a whole roster of cross country runners they could put in distance events, but there's pretty strong distribution. Michaela Pierce in the long jump is very very solid. Um, Emma Susiak is still around. She'll be competing indoor at least, not outdoor. And then we've talked about throws already. It's not a group that can win a MAC championship, that's for sure. But I think it is a group that can win points in every single event, which is kind of the in football you don't go from 5-7 to 9-3 in one season. It just doesn't happen. But you go from 6-6, 7-5 for a couple seasons to 9-3. And I feel like the women's team right now is kind of at that 6-6 level, which is being competitive in every event. The men's team was kind of there last year, but because their best athletes were in events that were a little harsh on the body, like Ryan Billion and Mike Morgan didn't compete at the MAC championships, uh, and we haven't seen hide nor hair, excuse me, of Morgan yet this season. We'll only see him, 3 or 4 times all year in the decathlon. He might compete in some of the jumps in other places. Really, the only big highlight I have from the men's side, I have two. Darian Johnson set a school record in the 60-meter dash. He broke Ryan Billion's school record by 0.01 seconds, 100th of a second, which the 60-meter dash is less than 7 seconds long anyway, so that's actually a substantial amount of time considering. If you'll remember last year, John, every single week for about 2 months, UB broke another school record in track and field. Somebody broke one. Um, and so this week we're doing the same thing. Darian Johnson getting us started. I didn't think any of the other sprinters did anything super impressive. There were people there, which was nice. Brian Crimmins looked real solid in the 800, and Tyler Sheving. Tyler Sheving was not the top finisher in the mile. It was Craig Kaiser who finished seventh. That's good. But the other real big highlight is Kayshawn Cathy in the triple jump. He only runs the triple jump, as far as I know. He's steadily improved last year. Went from like outright disappointing distances last year in the triple jump at the beginning of the year to being a steady, earned some points in the MAC championships. This year he looks like he could be a contender for a MAC title in the triple jump. It depends on if what's his face from Eastern Michigan is graduated, because Eastern Michigan has like an All-American caliber triple jumper, or has had
Mhm.
one. But otherwise, Kaishan Caffey that's a name to remember. I think he's going to be real solid this year. He's already very solid, but he's improved a lot in the last year. He came in fourth. Again, this is a very competitive meet. I was not expecting as many UB student athletes to place as they did, let alone for the team to string together enough points to finish third, both men and women. I have not left you much room to say whatever you might want to say. You started with throws, so I don't feel bad. Do you have anything else?
Um, no, not really much outside of throws. I'm pleased with where everyone is now. A little pleasantly surprised with where uh, with the sprinting group on the women's side, just how close the three you mentioned were. Um, well, we're almost right on time.
Yeah.
Just closing in on an hour. Um, if you don't have anything else to say, um, I do have this week in bowl already.
Great. I was going to look up. If you've got it, you go ahead with it.
Well, while you're looking, whatever you're going to look up, I'll just
Oh,
run
did I
down.
freeze? Nope. I said that I was going to look it up to get it said. But
Oh,
if you've got it, go.
yeah, I've got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So this week, nothing going on during the week until Friday. Wrestling is at home against Old Dominion. That will be live on ESPN3. Um, I've been doing kind of preview game thread pieces, so please, if you're going to watch on ESPN3, um, come join us. We'll chat about it. It'll be a good time. Also on Friday, men's tennis will be at Cornell, another of the Ivies that you mentioned earlier, Matt. Um,
Yeah.
then Saturday, Um, Saturday and Sunday weekends are pretty busy. Women's swimming, diving against
Hmm.
the Ohio women, and women's tennis. Their first, I believe that's their first of the
Oh,
spring.
guess who will do a women's tennis? Sometime in the next week, we'll have a women's tennis preview for you guys. I guess I knew conceptually that their season was starting, but this is
Name
the first I've really thought about it.
it.
Great. Chantel Martinez Blanco, two thumbs up. I'll spoil it now. Track and
Uh,
field must be doing something, right?
um, Let me make
They're
sure.
going to Cornell again. The Upstate Challenge.
I see. I used the
Don't
stupid little.
don't trust the scroll thing at the bottom of the
Yeah,
website.
see, I trusted the scroll thing against my better judgment, and
Don't trust the scroll thing. Men's
I
tennis
got
is on.
burned.
Women's tennis is on. Women's swimming only. Track and field is at Cornell's Upstate Challenge. Anytime I hear the word Upstate now, I think of Book of Mormon when they talk about Upstate. Like, oh yeah, no, you're a South Park guy. You'd like it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm a South Park guy. I want to go see Book of Mormon. Have not gotten the chance to go see it yet.
it's pricey. Just listen to the soundtrack. Um,
Um,
but Cornell
so,
thinks that they're an Upstate, and they're really not. So it's the Upstate Challenge.
so I
Uh,
think that was the only one that I missed.
Softball and baseball haven't started yet. Softball will start in mid-February. Baseball will start in late February. Um, that might be everything. Track and field is sneakily four of UB's like 18 sports or whatever,
Hmm.
um, which is nice when I'm trying to frantically remember everything that's going on.
Um,
Baseball, basketball, cross.
then so yeah, women's
Yeah, I
tennis
think
never.
that's everything. We should find out when rowing starts. Not that we can say anything about rowing anyway.
Um, while you're doing that, women's tennis is taking on St. Francis.
Win.
Then Sunday, uh, wrestling will be at home again against Ohio. I should. I'm traveling back to Buffalo that day. I should be back in time to be there in person,
Okay.
hopefully, before going back to watch my Cardinals give me another freaking heart attack. And men's tennis will be at Brown on
Yeah,
Sunday as well.
freaking Ivies.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, they're there. It's nice. It'll be nice when we beat them.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would. I wouldn't want to get good and not have a chance to beat the Ivies. Um, yeah. So this is like I said at the beginning. This is now the time of the year where we're going to have full Saturdays pretty much every week. There will be a day in early March where we've got 9 sports going on Saturday, and it's going to be awesome. And I'm going to wonder how I've done this without getting paid, but I'm going to have fun with it anyway. And we're going to have to run through our hour on Saturday nights. Um, Last year we weren't doing these in the spring um, super regularly, if at all, and so we haven't ever actually had to do one of these shows with like 8 sports going on at once. But it'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll cross that bridge.
John thinks it will be less fun than I do.
Oh no, I'm my voice is always, if you haven't noticed, my voice is just one even pitch.
Yes. Yeah.
So, so no, under my robotic programming, I'm actually quite excited.
Oh, good. Because
Uh,
hopefully softball will be improved this year.
yeah, because this is my last semester at UB
That's right.
here. Um,
Yeah, but you've got a job, so you're
I do have a job
not only do you have a job, but you have a job that keeps you in Western New York.
that will keep me literally like where I want to have an apartment literally just right near UB so I can
Yeah. Yeah.
easily get
Well,
that much.
that's definitely something that will cross the bridge when we come to it.
And because the Bills and Sabres have priced me out of season ticket range, I'm gonna have football and basketball season tickets, so
Nice.
that'll be fun.
That'll be good. All
All right,
right.
so
Take us
we
out.
yeah, so For Matt Gritzmacher, I'm John McQuinney from ubbullrun.com. This was our weekly Olympic Rundown podcast where we talk everything that's not football and or basketball. Uh, do this every week. This week's a little later than we usually do. It's usually at 10 o'clock on Sunday nights. We'll see you next week.